Well, we have the one, the only Coach Henry here, and I'll just be open and honest about this. This is the second time we've had this interview because I was dumb and formatted the card. So hopefully we'll have similar answers as we did the last time. Cause
Well,
it was
we
great.
won't know because you deleted it.
Yeah, I know it's gone. So anyway, Coach, wanted to bring you in here and kind of, I don't know, give you a little praise. You have succeeded in getting over 400 wins, and so that's a real milestone as a coach. And I'd kind of like to hear your thoughts about that. I know that you give most of that to your teams, the recognition.
Well, first and foremost, our season this past year was cut short. We were 30-3. We won the regular season championship and the tournament championship of the Heart of America, which is very difficult to do. And in doing so, we won our 4th conference title in the Heart of America in only 5 years that we've been in the league. So 4 out of 5 is incredible. And I honestly believe, and I'll take this to my grave, and anybody can argue with me, whatever they want, we were going to win the national championship. We weren't just going to win the national championship. I feel like we were going to win games by double digits. We were getting better, and then we were getting Brandon Faison back off of injury heading into the national tournament. And I just feel like that was taken from us. This COVID-19 thing has cost people a lot of things, but that's where the closure is. And the weird thing, Ken, is I still have my practice plan. Every day of my career, I have a practice plan, and it's in plastic in case I sweat or get sweat on me or whatever. And it's still in my truck because I can't let it go. Asking me about the 400 wins, very humbled by that, excited by that. I'd be stupid to tell, I'd be lying and stupid if I said it didn't matter to me. It meant a lot. But it means a lot to me because a lot of people helped. A lot of people made it happen. At the school, the administration, athletic directors, and my players. I mean, I've had great players. I mean, you've been covering us for a lot of years and a fan of for a lot of years. We've had great players. Also, great assistant coaches. And I've been blessed over 19 years to only have three top assistants. I don't know if anybody else can say that. 20 years, only Brandon Linhart, Joe McKinstry, and Blake Sandquist have been sitting next to me. Now, other assistant coaches have come through the program and gone on done great things, and I'm not going to even attempt to name them all because I'll forget somebody, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But it's just been a great run and a great ride, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say my family has a lot to do with it too. Maggie, my wife, my son Cole, and my daughter Ellie, my mom, my dad, and my in-laws, and everybody. So everybody's been supportive and helpful. You'd be amazed at how much work goes into Thanksgiving at my house from my family to feed 30, 40 guys and girls from William Penn.
We've never been there, but we have seen the Facebook pictures.
It's pretty outrageous.
So you kind of touched on it, though. I mean, the season didn't end the way any player that was still in the hunt didn't end the way any of those players wanted it. Literally, we were at the selection show, got snubbed, but I think that was probably a good thing for the team.
Oh yeah, we were gonna kick some butt after that.
Yeah, and so there was, there was a Las Vegas betting site that went ahead and ran the tournament through their computer,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys came out as national champions.
We won on the computer.
Yeah.
The Massey ratings, I think it is, and they put out the bracket even. We're going to print that out and blow it up and frame it and call ourselves the national champions. But it's still a hollow feeling. It's Dexter Hood deserved a chance, and Dexter and the fellas deserved a chance. And it's not just about Dexter. I mean, obviously he was a first-team All-American, but we had 3 All-Americans and 5 All-Conference players, and all the way down, like student assistants and interns and graduate assistants. I just feel so bad for everybody involved that we didn't get the opportunity. I'm scared that we're not going to get the opportunity this year, to be honest with you. I'm not going to get into that and politics and everything else because that's a couple months away. But I hope we get the opportunity this year because we'll be pretty good.
I was going to say, I think every coach right now, the emotional heartbreak that happened, I mean, let's face it, that was devastating in March.
Mm-hmm. But we were also scared that at that time it wasn't heartbreak. It's heartbreak now in that I feel like we should have played or that we could have played somehow. It's really bothering me more now than it did then because I was in a panic mode like everybody else. I was running through Hy-Vee and doing what everybody did. And
so you're the reason nobody had toilet paper in town then?
I did buy a lot of toilet paper and a lot of canned corn. I took all the ramen noodles. I mean, I grabbed a lot of stuff that we still haven't eaten or used yet.
But so, I mean, it was fair at first. It was people were panicked, but and concerned, and now we kind of see how things are starting to play out. Things are opening up, and I'm sure that burns a little bit more than it did.
It hurts a little bit, and in reflection through the summer, it's starting to bother me a little more, and I'm sure. Once that ball bounces for the first time in practice or in the fall, I'll get over it. Every season is kind of like that, but this one hurts a little more because we didn't get any closure. Even if we would have went to the national tournament and gotten upset in the first round, at least we will never know what magic could have happened or not happened.
Well, I was going to say, when the victory bell rang inside of Penn Gymnasium,
Conference tournament finals.
Everybody's looking forward to the next game. There's none of those hugs or goodbyes or this was so. How did your kids handle that then?
We had a meeting. We had the selection show, which you were a part of, and we found out who we were playing, and we were talking about it, and then the assistant coaches got to work on starting scouting and everything else, and that was on I believe a Wednesday because we played on Tuesday. By Thursday, there were rumors that we were going to not play. And we just had the selection show the night before. On Friday, it was canceled. I mean, it happened so quickly. I mean, we just played on Tuesday night. So on Friday, we had a team meeting in the gym, and it was very, very emotional. Myself and Coach Sandquist, he won't like me saying this on air, but he was crying and I was crying, and that's not a shocker because I'm a bit of a crier. But with Coach Sandquist crying and other guys crying, and we brought it in as a team one last time, and that was it. I mean, bang, it's over. I mean, it was so quick. It happened so fast that we really couldn't grasp what was happening. And then, before you know it, everyone's leaving. It was nuts. I mean, everybody's got their own stories of what happened during this whole pandemic thing or whatever the name of this thing is. But from a basketball side and a team side, it was nuts. It was nuts.
Well, I was going to say that leadership has led to you being recognized. So recently you were recognized as one of the top coaches in small ball colleges, I guess, or is it D2 and below, I think, or however they described it.
Some type of ranking of top 50 other than D1, excuse me, other than D1 type thing. I didn't even know it existed. Josh Sash was the one who told me. He sent a screenshot of my picture and my award. I had no idea. And Josh coached with me years ago, and his family's been very close with me over the years. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then all of a sudden, all the other coaches start chiming in. So I was recognized, and just like the 400 wins, though, it's very humbling because a lot of them made this happen. I mean, I don't consider myself a great basketball coach. Maybe I'm a good coach, but I'm not a great basketball coach. That's a little different. I hire well, handle talent well, but a lot of my assistants have drawn up the plays and done some different things, and I don't care. I'm a very simple guy. I drive a pickup truck. I'd rather fish than golf. I could sit here with you all day and talk whatever. I'd rather, just keep it simple, and awards like that don't mean much to me. It's cool, but had I not been on the list, it wouldn't have bothered me because I wouldn't even known if not for Josh.
What do you think, though, that sort of recognition also goes hand in hand with those wins and the success that you're having at Penn? Let's face it, if we don't go to Kansas City now, we feel highly disappointed, which most schools are highly, they're really excited they got to go to nationals. We're disappointed and think the program's failing. If
We have to. We have to. And I've told you this many times. You've heard these stories over and over. And I'll repeat them for the camera, not for you, because you've already heard them all. If when we lose a game, it's like we lost 5. And I have to remind the players all the time, like we lost a game. We went 30-3 this year. I think Beasley and Keith's team in 2013, we went 34-2. I remember when we lost that first game at Bellevue. We were like 18-0 at the time we lost. And I was like, listen, we lost 1 game. I mean, they were devastated because they talk about going undefeated. That doesn't happen in college sports anymore. Never. It'll never happen. And maybe football, but, you get Alabama or whatever. But in college basketball, you play so many games. You're going to have a night where the ball doesn't bounce right. And reminding our players that when we do lose a game, it's just 1 game. And getting them to celebrate a win, too, because they're so expected to win. But that expectation is something you want to be a part of. It's like I always tell them, I use the reference of Duke. Not that we're Duke. I don't want to get that arrogant. But when Duke plays at Wake Forest and Wake Forest wins, what happens? They swarm the court. And that's kind of how it is for us. If we lose at Grandview, their crowd goes crazy. And along the way, one time we didn't make it, back when we were going to Branson, one time we didn't make it to the Nationals, and my daughter made us go on vacation to Branson because she missed it that much. I mean, it's just nuts. I mean, it's just a part of what we are now. I mean, you and your wife, you need that March trip to Kansas City or Branson just like everybody else, and if it doesn't happen, I kind of feel responsible, to be honest with you.
I was going to say, Ginger's got that week always circled in the calendar. So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and I tell my staff every year, it's like, this is what we want. I mean, it's not pressure. Just get it done, and it's fun.
Well, we're going to kind of go back to this coming year. You only lost Dexter Hood for the most part out of your graduation. Yeah. I mean, there was a couple others that have decided other programs might be a better fit for them, or
right.
I don't know how to describe that. Kids come and go.
I'm not going to get into that other than there were a couple of young men who weren't playing as much as they would like and saw that everybody was coming back. So maybe their role wouldn't change. It's a good decision for them, and we actually help kids like that move on by calling some of our buddies in the business and finding them places to go. So 3 kids, Dexter being the highlight, obviously first team All-American, Conference Player of the Year, Newcomer of the Year. One of the, I don't like to rank players or say who's the best or the GOAT or anything like that, but he is one of the top 3 to 5 players we've ever had in the program. Not just as a player, but as a leader. He's a coach on the floor. Very fun kid to be around. You look at him from a distance and you'd say, man, I bet that dude's nuts or whatever. From his appearance, he's a chiseled guy and built like he's a gladiator. But great kid, man. So much fun.
I was going to say he was a great student too.
Yeah, good student. Just an overall A+ person.
Well, and I remember I was getting ready to shoot the women's basketball team pictures, and there's Dexter there by himself, extra hours, shooting free throws. Just shooting free throws. Fun
kid, I will say that. Fun kid, great to be around, but very professional, very dedicated. There was a practice late in the season where we were just kind of, there. We weren't doing a whole lot. and me and Blake were just kind of letting them jack around. And the whole team is on the basket towards the lobby, and they're shooting half-court shots, and they're first one to make a half-court shot. And the other end, Dexter's down the other end by himself shooting free throws, and no one is bothering him. I mean, that just tells you exactly. He told them all, I'm going to work. Y'all can play down here, but I'm going to work. And that's how he was, and just a great, great leader.
Well, we'll be looking forward to this year. I mean, minus Dexter, of course. But are you scared that you'll get that team built once again, and the coronavirus will come in and wreck things up for you again?
You know, I don't even want to think about that. I mean, I do daily. I'd be lying. I try not to think about it. I guess the number one thing for me is not necessarily are we going to shut the season down. For me, it's am I getting the same kids back mentally, emotionally, physically that we had before? You know, how is their mindset coming back from wherever it was that they were with all that's going on in the world between Corona and the police thing and the rioting and the protesting and all that and the race, you know, everything. I am very concerned for them. Our season is not the number one thing right now. The number one thing for us is, you know, we're going to have the challenge of these guys coming back, the returners, that is. The new guys, obviously, yes, because we don't know them as well. But the returners specifically, are we getting, what new person are we getting? Because I know I've gone through some things. Everybody has over the last 4 months. But that's something that I think every coach needs to think about, not just are we going to play. So that's the number one priority. After that, yeah, Ken, I want to play because I want to see Q Cager throw a lob to KV on Blaylock, and I want to see Brandon Faison pull up and shoot that mid-range jumper that I hate that goes in. I don't hate it when it goes in, but I hate it when he misses. But, you know, I want to see Chance Caruso going between his legs, and I want to see Nate Gehring and Eddie Daly do their thing. And you know, across the board, Josh Watkins, all of them, Ahmad Pinder. It's going to be fun if we get to play. And I'm optimistic that we will play, and I'm keeping the faith that we will play. You know, I think our first game is November 1st, so that's a long time from now, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll get to talk to Nick here pretty soon in a couple weeks or so, probably about some things Penn's going to be doing. So
you know, Ken, this whole thing, you know, the 400 wins and the recognition and all that. Back to my first couple of seasons, my staff was myself, Brandon Linhart, Ryan Parker, and Jackson Drost was our student assistant / manager. And that's all we had. And we went 15-18 my first full season. My interim season, we went 2-30. So when we won 15 games and we're 3 games under 500, we thought we had arrived. Could you imagine we went 15-18 now? So, I mean, it was a blast. You know, the beginning with us 4 guys, those first couple of lean years was so much fun. We thought that was the struggle. It wasn't. Those were good times. Good times. And then we obviously added a bunch more of assistants. DeJuan Foster and Donnie Hickenbottom came in, and Josh Sass, Joe McKinstry, and then it just took off from there. So this has been a fun ride. It's been a dream come true to sit here today and reflect on, you know, 19 years of that. Just been a blast.
all right.
An absolute dream come true. I never imagined I'd be sitting here talking to you about these things. I just wanted to keep a job. Me and Brandon and Ryan and Jackson were just trying to prove that we belonged as coaches at the college level or even coaches in general. I thought I had made it when I was the head coach at Twin Cedars of Bussy. No offense to Twin Cedars, go Sabres. But I loved it. You know, I would probably still be there had I not gotten the opportunity to come over here to William Penn. So that kind of tells you where I'm at as a simple guy. My wife's been fantastic. So supportive. I try to tell my young coaches, if you're going into coaching, make sure your girlfriend, your fiance, or whoever you're going to marry knows what coaching is about. Because if they don't, you're going to have troubles. And from the time I met her, I was already coaching. I was at Clarinda Academy in Clarinda, Iowa. I was the ninth grade basketball coach at Clarinda Academy. I just left William Penn. I was the 7th grade coach at North Mahaska. People might not know that. Another thing you might not know is I was the assistant varsity volleyball coach at William Penn, women's volleyball.
Really? I did not know
People
you had
don't
that
know
in
that.
your repertoire.
And we went 15-15. We did not have a losing season. Coach Shercoke was the head coach then. It was a good time. But anyway, back to what I was saying is I tell all my young assistants, whoever you get involved with as a life partner, make sure they understand that they know what coaching's all about, because there's going to be some lonely nights. There's going to be a lot of time in the gym. There's going to be a lot of complaining, a lot of film watching, all that. I mean, recruiting, I could go on and on. And then you throw in kids that might play, and then you got dad as a coach, and that's a whole nother deal.
And Thanksgiving dinners.
My 2 children, Ellie and Cole being 19, Ellie being 17, this is my 20th season. So they've never had a Thanksgiving where there's not been William Penn players or William Penn students at our house. They don't know the true meaning of Thanksgiving. They think it's a basketball holiday, which will get interesting now that Cole's starting to play at UNI. That is Maggie going to help me cook, or am I going to have it catered in? That'll be interesting after 20 years. So thousands of William Penn students have come through our home over the years for Thanksgiving, and it's a tradition that even if my family goes and follows you and I to the Virgin Islands next year, I'll still be here somehow putting some turkey or something up. I mean, maybe we'll have frozen pizzas or something. I don't know, but they're going to eat at my house.
All right. Well, I really do appreciate your time, and apologize. This is the second time I had to have you in.
Well,
yes, I do make mistakes.
Like I said off air, we can do this again next week if you want.
Well, I'm hoping that we'll get a chance to talk more, particularly as the season approaches, and then when I get to interview when you finally get to raise that trophy high.
How do you do these interviews with people walking by and everybody wants to wave at you?
I feel like
You two are very popular. I feel like everybody that walks by waves at you guys.
Yeah, you just give them a little hand and
right.
a little nod. And, so, all right. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks for having me.
John Henry.
John Henry, the one, the only.
Yeah.
We were I had touched base with him a little bit on some of his recognition and successes. I mean, he's now over 400 games won, which is collegiate basketball is a pretty phenomenal number.
Yeah, it really is.
So tell me a little bit about what some of those accomplishments mean as his boss. I mean, and how that helps you guys out a little bit there.
Well, I think overall, I think people take for granted sustained success. And to have a program that is consistently a top program in the country and winning conference championships for of our first 5 years in the Heart, I think people get used to that, and that is a very, very abnormal thing, and so that's a testament to him as the leader of the program and being able to shift, right? And going into my 4th year in this role, I've seen Coach Henry shift about 3 different times, and in the last year and a half, his shifting as a leader has been pretty profound. He's really reinventing himself. And I think the other way that you have sustained success is you place good people around you. And one thing that he really understands is he's a very good coach. Obviously, you don't get 400 wins by just showing up. I mean, he's a very good coach. But also, coaching is about empowering people, and leadership is about empowering people. So the way he empowers his staff to help build the program and lead the program. And I think that's one of his strengths as well, beyond just coaching and his ability to connect with people, is his ability to hire good people that fit him well. And so he's really good at hiring those that might have strengths that are his weaknesses. And I think as a leader, that's sometimes really hard to do. And if you have the confidence and the comfort to be able to do that, you're going to be, and not feel like it's threatening, you're going to be succeed at a much higher level. So I think it just really comes down to if you're having sustained success, you're constantly having to reinvent yourself. John Henry of his first year coaching is very different than John Henry today. John Henry, his first conference championship as the head men's basketball coach at William Penn, is very different than John Henry of this last team. And I know that John Henry next year is going to be very different than John Henry of last year. And part of that is just that constant evolution. And so that's really important in coaching. And sometimes the coaches and the programs that don't necessarily see that success are the ones that are not constantly looking on how do we reinvent and how do we get better and how do we adapt, how do we change, how do we continue to be cutting edge.
Well, I was going to say, of course, because of the corona, nobody made it to the national tournament. But you're speaking of that continued success. I kind of use the space shuttle program as an analogy. It didn't even used to make it on TV at one point in time because it was just, it happened.
Yeah.
And then for the basketball team here, making it to the national tournament is just something that happens. Mm-hmm. And I think we become a little bit spoiled, kind of like we did with those national programs for space and what have you. We become used to it. And that's not common.
Oh, it's very uncommon. And, everything that we talk about in our program or in our athletic department is doing uncommon things and creating an athletic department of the future. I think what you're seeing is, and what you continue to see as far as shifting and evolving is, Henry hates this word, but, I know he focuses on it, whether he admits it or not, is culture. There's been a difference each year that, I've been, in this role of their culture. And there's a different culture than when I was coaching women's golf. And there's a different culture than when I was a student watching the men's basketball team. And not that any of the cultures were better or worse than one another, but that's the evolution and the adaptation of the culture to fit who you have at the time. You don't want to develop a team and a culture for what you had 5 years ago. You have to develop it for what you have today and what you need tomorrow. And I think that's one thing that he and his staff continue to do well. And one thing that he'll laugh as he watches this. I know he's focusing on that. He just may not be talking about that he's focusing on it. But one way I see that difference is you see their team GPA, is the highest I've ever seen it. And so those are some of the things. It's not just about the performance on the court. It's in the classroom as well, and you're seeing those things as well change, and that to me is culture change.
So, Coach Henry is one of those, he wears his heart on his sleeve. Mm-hmm. And do you think that his student athletes sense that they're going to get the real answers, the real John Henry, whenever they're out there?
Yeah, I think every solid and effective leader has a genius, and their genius is what they're really good at. And there might be several different things, but they really aren't afraid to display their genius. And I think one of Coach Henry's geniuses is his ability to connect with people. And then people talk about it, it's like just something about that guy. He's just different, and in a good way. And so his genius is that ability to connect. His genius is his emotion. 6'5", 6'6", whatever he is, guy, big old burly guy who will cry on senior night. That's not really normal, but he's not afraid of it, and that's allows him to connect with people. And when you're a coach or you're in any type of relationship-based business, it's about building relationships. And so I think those relationships and that ability to connect with people in a different way, it's not just the hardcore big guy up front. There's a person behind that. And every coach is complicated in their own way. I coach. I consider myself still a coach. I'm the coach of the coaches now. But every coach has some type of ego. And that can be channeled in a very productive way. And part of that ego is just wanting to succeed and having a sense of urgency and wanting to be the best you can possibly be. And if you have those desires, you're going to have a little bit of a chip or a little bit of an ego and things like that. But that's what you expect from coaches. And I think that unsuccessful coaches, they're ones that have the ego and it's front and center, and they're not willing to show any type of human side of them. Coach Henry shows that human side, and I feel like a lot of our coaches do that. But it's a balance, right? There's a drive and a competitiveness that is part of what some people call an ego, which I just think is part of the DNA of a coach. But you can't let that be forefront to where you can't connect with people. And I think that there's that balance, and as his career has progressed, he's found that really solid balance.
Well, I think maybe students might know that, or his student athletes know that he's also their biggest fan. I have a photo from this year.
Yeah.
Dexter Hood's going up for the dunk, and John Henry's raising his hand, in a total agreement with what's happening at that moment.
Yeah.
And so what's it like, do you think, for students to know that your coach is probably also your biggest fan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important. I mean, I get goosebumps a little bit as you're talking about that, because as a coach, our job is to prepare people to be better than they are when they leave than when they came in. And part of that is that you have to support them, all right? You have to cheer for them. You have to be their biggest fan. And you have to do those things so you can also provide them corrective guidance. And you can also maybe get after them a little bit. But you can't get after them all the time and not be the fan, all right, and cheer for them when they accomplish great things. You can't have the corrective action in place if that's all you're doing the whole time. I mean, you think about it. If all someone did was correct you all the time, it would be overbearing. But if someone corrects you, but they show they care for you, and they're cheering for you and cheering on your success and coaching you up, there's the environment and the space is being provided for those conversations for corrective behavior to go forward. And I think it's important to show emotion in the way of cheering on your student athletes and being excited for them, not just on the court or on the field or on the course, whatever it is, but also in their achievements in the classroom. And I think some of the things that we don't see are when those achievements behind the scenes are happening, there is still the very similar type of, good job. And that reinforcement's really, really important, that positive reinforcement, so we can go and have those tough, crucial conversations and create a space for people to be able to listen to us.
All right, well, I'll start to wrap this up, but is there some comments you'd like to make about Henry in closing that maybe I haven't wandered into yet?
I think that he's got there's just this lovable thing that people love about him, right? He's just, we talk about, every coach has their thing. He's just Henry, and sometimes he's not the easiest person to manage, but he's also very honest. And I think the one thing that I appreciate most about Coach Henry is that he and I can have a conversation, and it can be a tough conversation. It could be a funny conversation. It could be a conversation about maybe something that needs to change or anything like that. But we talk about it, we hash it out, and we're good. And I think in today's day and age, in today's world, people are afraid to have tough conversations, especially with people they know. Because when I was a coach, Coach Henry was my mentor. Like, I went to him when I was first year as a women's golf coach and said, "Will you help me out? How do I discipline? How do I do these things?" I was 22, 23 years old, and he looks at me and goes, "I don't know the first thing about golf, but I can help you with these things." And so we have a relationship that goes way back. But to be able to have those conversations, and this happens all over our campus with all of our coaches, with our students, and doesn't matter what ethnic background or what socioeconomic status, male or female, gay or straight, it doesn't really matter. We have these conversations on our campus, and it's ingrained in our culture that we can talk and have discussions, all right? And maybe we can have a difference of opinion, but we can always, at the end of the day, move forward. And I think Coach Henry is a good example. We can talk, right? We can disagree, right? We can talk things out, right? We can get on the same page, and we can move forward. And I think that's special, and that's what I appreciate about as an athletic director to a coach, to a head coach especially, being able to have that dialogue and feel like we can have that conversation is always something that is always open, and it's good. And what you develop is a healthy respect for that. And so prior to being in the role of managing him, that has been one of the great things that have come out of that. Yeah, relationships change when you go from a peer to in a managerial role, but it's actually been an enhancement because we can really talk about how we make William Penn better and make it better than it is today. And so he cares about William Penn. All right, I don't think anyone doubts that. That dude bleeds navy and gold. And so when you really care about something, you're really passionate about something, you really want to see something succeed, you can have really high-level conversations on what something can be, not what it is today. And so that's what I really appreciate about him, is that, there's that and that grit, but there's also something behind that wants to focus on what the big picture is going forward and wants to be a part of a solution going forward. And that's one thing that I've really seen him continue to shift on in the last few years. And that's something way beyond the basketball court.
Well, thank you very much, Nick. It's been good to catch up with you and chat a little bit about Henry.
God, is he going to see this? I've said a lot of nice things about him, dang it.
I know. You're not going to be able to pull him back.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to.
All right, thanks, sir.
Yep.